Rua Takayashiki, the biggest idol of the moment, was also the granddaughter of Taizo Takayashiki, president of one of Japan's largest corporations. In his own eyes, Kazuma Suzuki was a plain, gloomy guy with no friends or girlfriend, the textbook definition of a loner. His self-perception was that of an unlikable, ordinary loser with no girlfriend or friends, his only distinguishing feature being his childhood connection to Rua. Having lived his entire life in Rua's shadow, Kazuma explained he didn't want to be special, only desiring a normal life with friends and a girlfriend. His only wish was to avoid being special like Rua, clinging instead to the simple hope of finding a few friends and a girlfriend. Rua had told Kazuma he was a gloomy loser, that his only worth was being her childhood friend, and he should know his place. Rua questioned if Kazuma had seen himself in a mirror, stating a loser like him couldn't achieve his desires and had already used up his life's fortune. Kazuma reflected that Rua's words, repeated since childhood, felt like a curse, but he couldn't stop longing for a normal life, especially in his first year of high school. Kazuma felt Rua's words were a curse he couldn't shake, and even as he kept dreaming of being ordinary, he received a new message. A man Minado asked Kazuma if he still wanted friends and a girlfriend, while Hiraji Ayaka suggested joining their elite group to achieve that goal. Hiraji reminded Kazuma of his desire for friends and a girlfriend, telling him today was his lucky day to join the popular crowd and meet the flashy girl, Rua. Kazuma Suzuki desperately wanted change, so he dressed his best, even gathering the courage to visit a hairdresser. He donned the flashiest clothes he could find, ready to step out and meet someone new, hating that they were his childhood friends. Laughter erupted from a group, with one person exclaiming how funny it was that Kazuma even cut his hair and seriously showed up. More laughter followed, with someone incredulously asking if he was actually serious and calling him a manly camel. Another person mocked him, noting he smelled like a hair salon and was wearing a jacket, realizing this was a setup and telling others not to laugh because he really tried his best. Someone else pointed out he was wearing a jacket, asking if they were kidding, and noting he went to a salon just for this event, questioning if his outfit was meant to impress them. Kazuma, hurt, asked if he had done something wrong to deserve this, betting 10,000 yen that they would end up crying. He pleaded to know if he had ever done anything terrible to justify their actions, offering a 10,000 yen bet that he could make them cry. Kazuma admitted he couldn't stand the thought of them being his childhood friends, realizing the sound of a bond being shattered as something inside him broke. He declared he hated that they were childhood friends, and that the curse that broke was something inside him shattering at that moment. Kazuma told Rua that he felt the same, and they should cut ties. Rua responded that she felt the same and was done with Kazuma. Her voice laced with disbelief, Sakura Chill demanded to know if Kazuma truly thought he could talk back to her, calling him a loser. With her face contorted in anger, Sakura Chill questioned Kazuma's audacity to speak to her that way, reminding him of his own initial complaints. Scoffing at the idea of a brat like Rua being a top idol, Sakura Chill declared the world had gone mad and that she had every right to hate Kazuma, but he couldn't hate her. Annoyed by Kazuma's outburst, Sakura Chill questioned who gave him permission to speak so loudly, reiterating that she could hate him, but he couldn't hate her, and that the world was doomed if this was its top idol. With their conversation declared settled by Kazuma, Sakura Chill dismissed Rua's worries about him, told her to stop trying to act cool, and abruptly ended the exchange. Urging Rua to forget the gloomy loser and get real, Sakura Chill reinforced Kazuma's goodbye as he reiterated his command to never speak again. Telling Rua never to speak to him again, Kazuma concluded their interaction without looking back. Someone exclaimed in shock, questioning if the table was seriously broken and if Kazuma had done it, dismissing the idea as impossible and suggesting it must have been cracked from the start. A student questioned who broke the desk, expressing disbelief that Kazuma could have done it and insisting it must have been cracked from the beginning, as no normal person could break it with their bare hands. Someone declared they would never forgive Kazuma for breaking off their friendship. A voice cried out that it was over and they would never accept it. Kazuma felt refreshed, the world around him glowing, and wondered why he had let Rua control him, deciding he'd rather face high school alone than sell his soul. The narrator's mind felt clearer than ever, seeing everything brightly and questioning why they had been hiding. They declared they no longer had to live as a shadow, proclaiming their newfound freedom. The narrator announced they could finally step out of the shadows, now that they were free. Takayashiki Taizo, chairman of the Teikai Group and director of Teikai Academy, began to speak. Takayashiki Taizo addressed his granddaughter Rua, asking if she was all right. The claim that Kazuma had been mean and ended their friendship left Takayashiki Kikura skeptical. When Rua questioned Takayashiki Sakura about Kazuma's behavior, Sakura confirmed she had witnessed it. For the first time, Kazuma had opposed her, leaving Rua to wonder if Rua-chan had said anything nasty to Kazu-kun. Though Rua couldn't believe Kazuma had gone against her for the first time, Aman insisted it wasn't like the Kazuma-kun she knew. Takayashiki Taizo agreed with Rua, stating it was natural for Kazuma to be upset, but Kazuma insisted he was only teasing her a little. Sakura agreed with Rua, asking if it wasn't normal for Kazuma to be upset, and Takayashiki Taizo admitted it sounded harsh. The narrator questioned the idea of the world's cutest princess Rua wanting anyone else, especially another girl, by her side, deeming it unbelievable and fine to tease him. The grandfather mused that Kazuma always wanted to hang out with the lovely Princess Rua, especially with other girls, which was why he teased him about it, calling it a harmless joke. He declared that it was Kazuma's fault because he loved him, and then proclaimed it was Kazuma's fault again. Kazuma protested that if Rua wanted to make up, she should be the one to apologize, but the grandfather insisted Kazuma apologize to the adorable Rua-chan. The grandfather asked if Kazuma was Rua's mentor, and then instructed him to make Kazuma apologize to the adorable Rua-chan and say, he suggested that if Kazuma wanted to make up, Rua should be the one to apologize, but then changed his mind, saying Kazuma should apologize to the lovely Rua-chan. The grandfather asked if Kazuma intended to make Kazuma-kun Rua-chan's husband, and then confirmed that was why he assigned him as his mentor to teach him martial arts and leadership. He questioned if Kazuma was hopeless and planned to make Kazuma-kun the family's husband, confirming that was why he trained him in martial arts. The grandfather noted that Kazuma's grades had always been straight threes since elementary school, and he purposefully scored average to fit in. He explained that Kazuma deliberately kept his grades at a straight 3 to match the other kids and stay with Rua. The grandfather happily confirmed that Kazuma was a worthy candidate to take over the Teikai group, but now that he cut ties with Rua-chan, Kazuma had no reason to suppress himself. He agreed that Kazuma was popular and fitting for the future emperor, who would inherit the Teikai group, but if he truly ended things with Rua, he wouldn't have to hold back anymore. The next morning, a comment noted that Kazuma's seat looked like it was reset to day 1, and that any Suzuki dude who went against Princess Rua must be a dumbass. Whispers spread through the hall as Kazuma Suzuki stood his ground, earning him labels like idiot and little prince. Kazuma mused that most students would simply accept their assigned seats, but he found his childhood friend, the wealthy heiress and idol Rua, to be the worst kind of person. He acknowledged he'd noticed his childhood friend, the rich princess and top idol Rua, was actually the worst kind of pig, and he decided to put the chair and desk back. Teikai Academy's mission was to train S-class talent and become the world's #1, reserving its upper ranks for those with exceptional talent. Teikai High School considered those born with talent as upper class, adhering to a motto of gathering S-class talents from around the world. The most influential person at Teikai was Rua Takayashiki, also known as Princess Rua, and the school chairman was her grandfather. Rua Takayashiki, or Princess Rua, was the director's granddaughter and stood above all other upper-class students. Kazuma declared he had a third option since he was determined to live alone, and his seat was reset to day one. Students reacted with disbelief and fear, wondering if anyone dared to defy Princess Rua, and if it would cause trouble if his actions were discovered. Kazuma was serious about his decision, showing no fear, and chose to hide himself away, not wanting anyone to find him. Kazuma decided to hide out in the underground library until class ended, a place few students, and even some teachers knew about. He resolved to simply wait out class in the underground library, a secret spot he thought no one else knew, seeking a moment of normal life. Kazuma reflected that he had no idea what was coming at that moment. He admitted he still didn't know the story that was about to unfold. He explained he sought an ordinary life, yet found himself surrounded by extraordinary girls. That day marked the true beginning of his struggle to live an ordinary life amidst girls who were anything but. Kazuma mused that in these far from peaceful days, he wondered if he would soon be crying and apologizing. He lamented that his childhood friends would make his school life anything but peaceful or normal, predicting he'd soon be crying again. A comment questioned if losing brain cells from Rua's lines meant he should pick up a romance manga. Rua Takayashiki introduced herself as the incredibly popular, A-rank idol known as Rua Haim. Rua Takayashiki greeted everyone as Princess Rua, detailing her rise to the top of the school. Kazuma complained that someone had totally killed the vibe by just sitting there grumpy the whole time. He described one of the girls as grumpy and a total buzzkill, finding her rudeness during the show irritating. Rua Takayashiki announced her debut event would be next Sunday at Shine Mall, completely free to attend. Rua Takayashiki reminded everyone about the free event this Saturday, urging them not to miss it. A chaotic jumble of text and hashtags appeared, mentioning cat-themed underwear and a mysterious ID. Kazuma Suzuki introduced himself from Class 1-3, while Amain Minato apologized for her loud voice. Kazuma Suzuki identified himself from Class 1-1, and Amain Minato apologized for yelling. A description of Amain Minato noted her hidden eye, lack of confidence, and fear. Acknowledging that no guarantee was their only assurance, Kazuma invited someone in. When Amain was questioned about her gym attire and changing location, she explained she sought a space to practice singing and dancing. Pressing for reasons behind Amain's gym attire and location, Kazuma received her reply about seeking practice space. The text explained that several former child entertainers attended the academy, including Rua Takayashiki, a specially selected student with high expectations. It was noted that the school was full of former child stars, and one girl was a special student, the pride of the high school. Kazuma realized that was why she had tears in her eyes moments before, followed by a block tap notation. Kazuma heard a familiar phrase, recognizing it from somewhere before. Rua's voice, laced with a teasing tone, asked Kazuma where he was and if he'd seen her video, playfully threatening to leak his name. A man's voice, tinged with concern, echoed Rua's question about Kazuma's whereabouts and mentioned seeing him earlier, referencing a video where he was being roasted. Rua again called out to Kazuma, asking where he was and if he'd watched her video, noting the comments were roasting him and wondering if she should mention his name. Amain questioned why Kazuma was going through something difficult, assuming he was a special scholarship student, but then admitted her own lack of popularity as a voice actress. Amain continued, asking why someone would do that to him and if he was a special student, before confessing her failure as a voice actress and noting his bangs hid his eyes. Kazuma insisted he was not a special student, lamenting that many people had better voices, and that someone like him should act like a voice actress. Kazuma declared he hated being childhood friends, stating there were better people like Takayashiki, and that bullying was the start of it all. Someone questioned why Kazuma teamed up with a pig, prompting him to defensively warn that badmouthing Rua at school would be problematic. The question about how Kazuma ended up doing a duet with that pig was repeated, and a flustered Kazuma warned them to be careful with their words, since no one else was around. Kazuma commented that calling someone a pig was harsh, then explained that Rua and he were in the same school and agency, Teikai Music. Aman Minato declared she was fine with being background support, as she didn't want to drag anyone down. She explained that she wanted to give it her all, because she had been given a rare chance. Aman reiterated that she didn't mind being just a supporter, especially after being given such an opportunity. Kazuma Suzuki acknowledged her dedication, asking if she was practicing there and offering to keep her company. He offered to help her practice, admitting that all he could do was offer moral support. Kazuma confirmed he would be counting on her. Amain gratefully accepted his offer, thanking him. Arriving suddenly, Rua Takayashiki remarked that Amain was cuter than a pig and asked Kazuma if he noticed. She pressed Kazuma about whether he found Amain more endearing than a pig, then advised him to bring her water after her morning practice. Confronting Kazuma directly, Rua demanded answers on why he blocked her messages and ignored her, declaring the mighty Rua Haim-sama deserves attention. She continued to question why he was ignoring her, reminding him that he couldn't ignore the great Rua Haim-sama. A student commented on Kazuma's rude silent treatment of Rua, suggesting he practice instead of wasting time around her. A voice demanded to know who gave Kazuma permission to leave and accused him of stalking Rua, suggesting he should train instead. Kazuma wondered if he had punched the accuser, as he felt nothing at all. Confused, the accuser questioned if Kazuma had hit him, as he felt nothing. Surprised, the accuser realized Kazuma was suddenly behind him and questioned if Asano had missed or was weak, noting the punch had no effect. Hating that they were childhood friends, the accuser wondered when Kazuma got behind him and if Asano had missed, calling him weak and a loser. Rua suddenly appeared, yelling at the accuser to stop and not lay a finger on Kazuma, stating only she was allowed to mess with him. Rua, addressing the accuser as Your Highness, warned them to know their place and that only she had permission to mess with Kazuma. Hating their childhood bond, Kazuma asked Rua if she really thought her actions looked cool, insisting no one had the right to bully him. Demanding to know if Rua thought her behavior made her look superior, Kazuma declared no one on Earth could intimidate him. Ignoring her identity, Kazuma told Rua he wanted nothing to do with her, challenging whether she believed herself impressive. Vowing never to tolerate Rua's interference again, Kazuma warned her not to target him, especially in matters concerning him. 1 week later, Kazuma sighed, seemingly exhausted. A week later, Kazuma found himself in a familiar situation, hearing the words hate that were childhood friends. Aman Minato, her voice laced with concern, asked if Kazuma was okay, urging him not to get hurt before the big show. Aman thanked Kazuma again, admitting he always showed up right when she was about to fall, calling him amazing. She confessed that Kazuma had been watching and encouraging her since that day, a statement he denied. Aman insisted Kazuma didn't know how much his support and protection meant to her over the years. Kazuma pointed out that Rua tended to lose her balance when she spun, suggesting she walk back normally instead of turning. He asked if it wouldn't be easier for Rua to just not turn when stepping back to center stage, but she argued it was necessary to stand out. Someone in the background commented on Rua's backflips and teased Kazuma about his riz. Kazuma demonstrated a simple step, showing how easy it was to avoid losing balance. Rua exclaimed that Kazuma's move was impossible, asking how he bounced like that, comparing it to a trampoline. Rua apologized, then asked again how he did that, insisting no normal person could jump like that and questioning if he had top grades in PE. Kazuma admitted his grades weren't that high, and that his posture was a bit off, something even the choreography coach got mad at him for. Rua suggested Kazuma fix his posture, noting how his instructor often scolded him for slouching like a cat. Kazuma agreed that Rua's idea for cat ears and a tail for the costume was super cute and would work. Rua questioned why Kazuma wouldn't want to use the cat ears and tail idea himself. Kazuma explained he couldn't match Rua's idol image and his role was to support her shine. Kazuma stated he was just Rua's support girl and asked if Amain was okay with that. She confirmed her acceptance, noting that singing and dancing weren't her main priority anyway. Declaring her ambition, she emphasized her pursuit of becoming a voice actress for anime characters while striving relentlessly. With steadfast resolve, she restated her commitment to voice acting for anime and her unwavering dedication to her craft. Kazuma expressed envy for Amain's passion, noting how alive she looked when talking about voice acting, and asked if she had any dreams. Kazuma admitted he didn't have any particular dreams or goals, feeling he lacked something special. Amain encouraged Kazuma, assuring him he could become anything he wanted, even just ordinary, and then asked if he had something to ask her. Amain told Kazuma he was fine and could become as normal as he wished, then asked if he had something she wanted to ask him. Hiraji asked Kazuma if he heard about his fight with Rua, questioning if it was because of him, and noting that he was putting his childhood friend in a tough spot. Hiraji continued, asking if the fight was his fault and pointing out that Kazuma and Rua were childhood friends, implying a conflict of interest. Kazuma hesitated, stammering a response to Hiraji's question about what he would like to do. Kazuma admitted he hated being childhood friends, but then agreed to Hiraji's suggestion if he didn't mind. Rua suddenly appeared, asking Kazuma what he was doing alone in such a cramped place, her voice laced with surprise. Rua questioned Kazuma again, asking what he was doing with Amain in such a secluded spot, as a rumbling sound was heard. Sakura Chill arrived, stating she heard Kazuma was there and came to check, then angrily called a man stupid for being with Kazuma. Sakura Chill exclaimed in disbelief, realizing Kazuma had been meeting Amain after school and questioning why he would go out of his way for her. The summary panel introduced Kazuma Suzuki as Japan's unluckiest high school boy, confessed to by both his evilest childhood friend Rua and his super pure childhood friend Aman. Kazuma flinched as Hiraji exclaimed that he was still 4 million years too early to get close to Rua, confirming his intention. Hiraji pointed out that Kazuma hadn't even shown Amain his bangs yet, asking if he was ready for a quick makeover. Hiraji declared that Amain trained like crazy every day just to hold her own, warning Kazuma not to get in her way, and questioned why he was taking her side, stating they were no longer childhood friends. Kazuma Suzuki recoiled as Sakura Chill aggressively questioned him, accusing him of hurting people with his jokes. Aman Minato declared she wouldn't lose to Kazuma, insisting she was cuter than Sakura Chill. Aman apologized to Rua Takayashiki for making her angry, but then got an idea to poke at Rua's pride. Kazuma picked up a cat pin Sakura Chill had dropped, suggesting they upload a video of him wearing it. Kazuma assured Amain her dance would be fine and offered to help with her video, asking if she considered lifting her bangs. Amain hesitated, admitting she was scared of people looking at her unless her bangs covered her face. Aman explained her agency was practically owned by Rua's grandfather, acknowledging Rua's superior popularity and looks. Kazuma noted that whether in school or showbiz, Rua liked Amain a lot because they were childhood friends. Happily agreeing to let Kazuma use her first name, a man received his earnest promise for the video shoot. A man Minato introduced herself as a voice actress about to perform her original Manayan dance for her YouTube channel. Eagerly sharing her plans, Amain revealed a surprise collaboration with Rua for the dance video. Declaring her live performance date, Amain urged fans to subscribe ahead of Sunday's debut. A YouTube page displayed a video titled Rua Heim Strikes Back, with over 1 million subscribers and thousands of comments. Rua, addressing her viewers, declared herself their one and only Rua. Hello YouTube. She explained her recent emotional acting was channeling frustrations to express something, asking if they were surprised. Rua wondered aloud if she should go all in on acting too, signing off as the super-motivated Rua Heim and asking for continued cheers. Another video, Hiezi Rua the Rua Heim Strikes Ba, boasted 20,000 views in 3 hours, contrasting with Amanchan's content. The narrator noted the cuteness of Amain's Nyan dance and expressed a desire to help it spread, recommending Kazuma watch it. A URL led to a blog post titled I love Isi Shi Chai Bulogs, with a comment calling Kazuma Suzuki a barricade introvert, but praising him as the squad leader. Kazuma was questioned about how his video achieved so many views in just 3 days, while Amain Nyan's Nyan dance had 500,000 views from 3 days prior. Someone mentioned hearing that someone was coming to the event, and that Rua had been aggressively promoting hers, making the speaker feel uncertain. A comment exclaimed, "Whoa, Rua-san is wearing cat ears? Why?" While another aggressively questioned the wearer's perceived arrogance for doing so. The Sunday event was planned as a cat ear showdown to determine who was the real cutest and most popular, with a giveaway hinting at Rua's intentions. On event day at Fazenshine Mall, Kazuma was surprised to find Amanchan wasn't dressed as expected, and she called out to him. Rua declared she couldn't breathe the same air as a nobody, but then conceded she'd be over there since it was showtime soon. Amain questioned Kazuma why he went so far for someone like her, wondering if he meant how the school favored scholarship students. She explained that if someone not on scholarship could shine, it might break down the school's wall, a wall she saw Kazuma create. Kazuma presented Amain with a handmade item, which she recognized and gratefully accepted, admitting she made it herself, because it was faster. Aman recounted how someone invited her to a salon, and mustering courage, she went, feeling reborn and like a new person, just like in light novels. Kazuma assured Amain she could absolutely shine because she had a big dream and worked hard to chase it, calling her up next. A sign declared a girl who shines has no enemies. Princess Rua welcomed everyone to her debut event, introducing herself as the granddaughter of the Tekken Group chairman. Rua announced she would sing their debut song for Princess Rua and her cheerful servants, and then introduced the members. A man Minato introduced herself, asking everyone to take care of her. A description introduced Kazuma Suzuki as an average introvert forced to live in his childhood friend Rua's shadow, now aiming for a normal school life. Onlookers wondered who the crazy cute girl was, asking if she said her name was Amain and where she was from. A commenter declared that the other girl was better than Rua, both in voice and dancing, calling it a total loss for her. The commenter continued, stating that while Rua played around, a man practiced diligently morning, noon, and after school, already possessing superior dancing skills. They reflected that the match was decided when Rua became jealous of the lowly girl who went viral, stepping into an arena that wasn't hers. The commenter felt Rua was naively dragged into a place that wasn't her turf, just as they themselves had been. Observing the crowd, Kazuma spotted several serious-looking men speaking into earpieces and heading backstage, realizing it was time to go. Kazuma cursed, wondering what was happening and resolving to do something before the song ended, unable to reach anyone and considering dragging the girl off stage himself. Suddenly, someone grabbed Kazuma, demanding to know who he was. Kazuma guessed the attacker was ordered to sabotage a man if she threatened Rua, questioning if they were servants of the Takayashiki family and why they knew that. He criticized the attacker's carelessness and second-rate orders, questioning if the quality of the Takayashiki family's servants had truly fallen so far. Kazuma declared he wouldn't let anyone ruin Amane's big moment, noting the stage looked fine for now, and that the audience had already heard her voice. He asserted that her brilliance could no longer be stopped by anyone. Kazuma encouraged Amane, telling her she could do it. Despite a spectacular tumble, the Ruaheim event concluded as a huge success. The next day, major news sites praised Rua's performance and Amane's amazing recovery, acting as if the mishap never occurred. Amane noted that in this age of social media, such news would only spread further, and someone commented on her viral event video. Amane realized that with her newfound popularity, it would be difficult to compete with Rua, and she must be frustrated. She decided that if she continued to clash with Rua, she would only get in the way and chose to step aside and watch Rua shine from afar. Kazuma was interrupted by Amane, who greeted him and asked if she could practice with him after school. Amani explained that she had been invited to an audition agency for a new anime, but the event was already over. She clarified that this time, she wanted to practice acting with Kazuma, asking him not to call her by her usual name. Aman requested that Kazuma call her Amnayan instead. Rua playfully teased Kazuma, wondering if lifting Amane's bangs had changed her personality. Aman insisted that if her personality had changed, it was Kazuma's fault because he was the one who lifted her bangs. A panel showed a news headline about Princess Rua collapsing and needing an ambulance, with a book titled Princess Rua Just Collapsed, Vol. 3. Months had passed since Amane's event, and June had arrived, finding her incredibly busy with new gigs and school, leaving Kazuma to wonder what had happened. Kazuma found himself labeled the shady loner, whom both Rua and Aman inexplicably liked, but life had settled into a peaceful routine, making him wonder if he was dead. A classmate mocked Kazuma's desperate desire for a girlfriend, attributing his lack of success to Rua's rejections. The classmate then praised Sakura Chill's stunning looks, fashion sense, and scholarship status in the elite dance program, expressing a desire to date her. He then tried to bribe Kazuma with tea, only for Kazuma to state he wasn't interested in guys and that the classmate's money wouldn't be enough. Kazuma countered that his boyfriend's spending habits meant thousands of cups of tea wouldn't match, implying that looks and money were all that mattered to the classmate. Aman noticed someone sitting in her reserved seat, a seat for a hidden gem she had retrieved from the underground archive for the library. She recognized the book as a great read and assumed the person must be eager to sit down and read it, then noticed Hiraji. Amane confronted Hiraji, asking if that was really his seat and telling him to let her have it. Hiraji retorted, telling Amane not to talk to him like they were friends, noting her stubbornness and the same icy glare he'd seen at karaoke, then told her to return to her own seat as the bell was about to ring. Aman challenged Hiraji to come at her while he still could. Hiraji threatened Amane, calling her a gloomy loner and Rua's lapdog, questioning what she thought she could pull off that morning and get away with. Kazuma questioned if there was some kind of drama unfolding, asking if something had happened to his friend. He was met with a tearful accusation. Kazuma was being cruel by treating them like strangers. She declared that she cared about him deeply and would never stand for him being with that voice actress. Kazuma retorted that he had finally cut ties with her and regained his freedom, intending to do as he pleased. He explained that he was working hard to earn his own money through his own efforts, finding this new job a bit far, but potentially useful. He applied for a part-time job at the JFTL Cafe and was hired to start that weekend. The cafe owner praised Kazuma for his seriousness, politeness, and pleasant manners, happy he applied. Kazuma introduced himself as Suzuki, the new part-timer, hoping his senior colleague would be kind. Amane Minato, the senior colleague, was surprised to learn the new part-timer was Suzuki. Amane declared she would do her best for Kazuma, testing his love by working diligently. She asked Kazuma why he was so quiet, finding his work outfit ridiculous and questioning why he would laugh. Kazuma blushed, denying he was working hard and claiming he was only doing it for the meager pay. A cafe patron complimented the workers' impressive effort, noting their dirty knees from scrubbing and mopping, which the worker found annoying. Urging the junior to hurry and change into their uniform before opening, the senpai promised to teach them a lot. After confirming the order for Neapolitan pasta and an iced coffee post-meal, the junior apologized for the cafe's current crowd. Observing that the junior was completely different from their classroom persona, the worker noted their genuine enjoyment of the work. Exhausted from the busy lunch rush, the junior confirmed that it was pretty much always like this, but it calmed down later. Boasting about being a genius and finding the work effortless, the junior impressed the senpai with their quick movements, prompting a question about their part-time experience. Questioning why they were being treated as enemies despite being friends, the junior received an explanation from the senpai about their conversation with Rua. Admitting to cutting ties with Rua, the junior insisted it didn't mean opposition to the senpai and asked if they were hated too. Acknowledging that someone orchestrated the situation, the senpai prompted the junior to ask if they meant Rua. Confirming it was Rua's orders, the junior admitted admiration for the senpai's efficiency and thoroughness. Expressing admiration for the senpai's efficient and thorough work, the junior requested more training, which the senpai reluctantly agreed to. Warning the junior to prepare for strict training, the senpai received an eager agreement and a butler-like question. Hiraji explained that he switched with Kazuma because the suspicious customer was easier to handle while dishes piled up. Hiraji noted the customer was there for Kazuma, fiddling with his bag and giving off an odd, suspicious gaze. Kazuma told Hiraji not to worry, as he couldn't just say something like that about customers, but Hiraji insisted he would handle that customer from now on. Hiraji thanked Kazuma, blushing as he welcomed him to the shop. Amane Minato excitedly greeted Kazuma, having heard about his part-time job and wanting to see it for herself. Kazuma worried about Hiraji being frozen and recognized by someone from school, while Amane commented that it was just senpai. Grateful for the cream soda, Amane thanked Kazuma for recharging her energy ahead of a big job and praised the venue's ambience. Thrilled by her voice acting career's momentum, Amane happily shared she'd secured 3 recurring roles thanks to everyone's support. Wondering if Rua Takayashiki had visited, Amane admitted she hadn't informed her about this project and noted Rua's rare 2-week vacation. Fully charged, Amane declared her readiness to tackle challenges head-on. Power surging after her visit, Amane excitedly told Kazuma her energy reserves had reached peak capacity. Someone commented that Rua's presence had brightened someone up, freed from her former agency and finding her true self, warning that if that pig tried anything again, they'd be in trouble. Another voice questioned what they just heard, noting Amane Minato was gaining popularity at school and wondering about the relationship between her and Kazuma Suzuki. A third person observed their closeness, relieved Kazuma hadn't told Amane about their job and thinking he was a good guy. Rua Takayashiki, also known as Rua Haim, greeted her 1.12 million YouTube subscribers, telling them to know their place. Rua mused that she truly wanted to work hard for someone important to protect, a realization that struck her as she spoke to someone. She worried her grandfather might get too excited, but vowed to do her best to make him happy, encouraging everyone to work hard too. Kazuma Suzuki noted it had been a week since he started his part-time job. Kazuma was called an idiot for changing in the girls' changing room, but it was the only one available, and he couldn't help it. Someone pointed out Kazuma's back was covered in scars, asking if he was okay, to which he dismissed them as being from a long time ago. Kazuma was complimented on being ripped, and his questioner wondered if he was in a sports club or had undergone special training. Kazuma asked if the person was interested in men's bodies, stating he had already done everything with his boyfriend and didn't need anything else. Amane Minato greeted Kazuma as senpai, saying she would count on his guidance again that day, and Kazuma told her to just keep up. The manager profusely thanked someone, noting the rush had finally calmed down, and they would manage despite the manager's illness. A voice excitedly announced an order was ready and suggested a drive to the beach, believing an experienced love expert like Hiraji could handle such guys. Someone pleaded for the teasing to stop, finding the shy reaction cute, and questioned why Hiraji was holding back just because the person was a customer. A voice urged someone to lift their skirt, assuming they wore it short to show it off, and to stop. Someone warned Kazuma not to anger him, stating he could smash 10 roof tiles at once and break a bottle, but Kazuma insisted he would do it this time. Kazuma dropped the bottle. Someone exclaimed that was close and the bottle flew off, while another told them to shut up, and that they would do it this time. A voice asked Kazuma what he was doing. A voice called out to Kazuma. Someone marveled at Kazuma's ability to cut something with his hand, calling him cool and amazing. A voice dismissed Kazuma's success as luck, stating it didn't mean he was strong, and demanded to know who he thought he was. Someone called out to Kachan in alarm, asking what happened. The shopkeeper urged Kazuma to keep it down, questioning what he had done, and if he would ever return to normal. Kazuma declared he could never come back, and told someone to stay away from her, as they called out to him. Approaching Kazuma, Hiraji asked if he was okay and praised his performance. Scolding Kazuma for his aloofness, Hiraji accused him of meddling in the jerk's affairs. Exclaiming about the troublemaker's fate, Hiraji called it thrilling to watch them face justice. Denying being Hiraji's boyfriend, Kazuma teased him about blushing and found it cute. Apologies flowed from Kazuma to Hiraji for the misunderstanding with the regulars, who thought they were a couple. Noticing a familiar customer, Kazuma excused himself to step out briefly. Calling out to the customer, Kazuma confirmed if he had forgotten something despite having his keys, phone, and wallet. Spotting a bug under the table, Kazuma warned the customer about sketchy people like the earlier ruffians. Laughing off the customer's comment, Kazuma noted he was the only one watching table 2 all along. The customer called Kazuma a little rat. A character noted the number 120, possibly a score or rank. Someone commented that the Takayashiki family's pride and genius were expected, and rumors about the top 10 being strong were true. Someone marveled at Suzuki's surprising abilities, noting he stood out even at school and had managed to drive off thugs. Amane Minato resolved to confess her true feelings to Suzuki when he returned. A character realized the Takayashiki family was pulling strings, accusing someone of being ordered to eliminate women close to him. Someone told the individual to return and inform their employer to stay out of sight, questioning their next move. An individual mused that taking someone down might spread their name through the underworld, land them a new gig, or allow them to rough up Rua's maid. A character decided to let someone off this time, instructing them to cut all ties with the Takayashiki family. Kazuma Suzuki noted that multiple bugs had been installed, but he managed to retrieve them before Hiraji noticed. A man asked Kazuma about his side of things, and he confirmed he had just finished cleaning the kitchen, recalling her nagging to wipe under the tables. When Kazuma was asked why he started working there, He explained he had only taken care of the pig until now and wanted to try normal high schooler things he never got to do. With a chuckle, Hiraji called Rua a pig and asked why Kazuma was working there, noting he was probably the only one in the Takayashiki family who could say that. Admitting the truth, Hiraji revealed all the brand name things were fakes and he had no money, confessing they were cheap second-hand items because his dad was gone and things were tight. Confessing his past lies, Hiraji admitted his college boyfriend's story was a fabrication, as was the "I've done everything" talk, explaining he always wanted to look good and could never admit that, acting like he was above everyone. Pondering his own honesty, Hiraji wondered why he was telling Kazuma all this, feeling like he just wanted him to hear it because lying to Kazuma hurt him a lot. Acknowledging his selfishness, Hiraji apologized, especially after what happened at karaoke, but Kazuma was the only one who didn't laugh, making Hiraji think maybe he had a reason and felt like he was looking at himself. Looking back, Hiraji recalled calling Kazuma Rua's servant to stay upper class and sucking up to Rua, but realized the real servant was himself, forcing himself to laugh and get mad when everyone else did. Taking responsibility, Hiraji admitted he was the worst, projecting his issues onto Kazuma and acting cold for no reason, calling himself a liar who pretended to be something he wasn't and hated himself for it. Despite his flaws, Hiraji stated he still respected Kazuma, asking what he was talking about regarding the dance recommendation boyfriend, which was just about having no money. Kazuma responded that anyone could do that, but Hiraji insisted not everyone could, stating he didn't care about recommendations boyfriends or brand names, calling Kazuma the most wonderful, hard-working guy. Amain warned Kazuma not to compliment girls so easily, asking if his girlfriend would get mad, and Kazuma clarified they weren't a couple, to which Aman replied they weren't that either. Aman mused that if a cute, super popular girl like Rua were Kazuma's girlfriend, he'd have bragging rights, noting that Rua totally looked head over heels for him and questioning why he wouldn't date her. Confronting Sakura Chill, Rua Takayashiki questioned whether she wasn't dating someone like herself. Her informant's silence as anticipated, Rua declared her unwavering efforts for Kazuma's sake. Working even harder, Rua revealed borrowing her grandfather's heirloom to debut as the Takayashiki family's newest top 10 member. Not needing a top 10 member to handle a nobody like Sakura, Rua stated she brought her to eliminate obstacles for their love. Sakura Chill demanded to know what Rua was doing touching Kazuma and how she found the place, claiming she knew about it long before. The revelation came that Princess Rua's classmates underwent background checks, exposing Sakura's counterfeit brands and fictional college boyfriend. With a sharp tone, Sakura was informed her scholarship was revoked and expulsion suggested, questioning her audacity to flirt with Kazuma now. Her voice laced with accusation, Sakura was called out for coldly dismissing Kazuma at karaoke before scheming to approach him, branded a deceitful fraud. Turning to Kazuma, he was told to stay out of the conflict, with a pointed reference to his Bayside date and the kiss that ended it. Mockery dripped from her words as Sakura's claims were ridiculed, taunting her lack of romantic experience and labeling her a dishonest liar. Addressing Hiraji, the question hung whether he should be informed. In a final flourish, it was declared that Sakura could now truthfully claim to have kissed Kazuma. A menacing voice declared that Rei would no longer lie and must kill a certain girl. A secret order was understood, royal entities were to be eliminated, and humanity was to be subjugated. Someone exclaimed in disbelief, questioning what was happening and if they were being targeted. From the crowd emerged a condescending voice challenging a newcomer to demonstrate true elite status by targeting Kazuma, who recognized the clique. Suddenly, a hidden blade glinted in the dim light as its owner vowed to neutralize the threat. With urgency, a voice pointed out the concealed weapon, insisting it must be removed immediately. Someone questioned why the person was laughing in such a situation, attributing it to the only freedom allowed to machines. A suggestion was made to sever ties with the Takayashiki family and consider a part-time job offering freedom. Someone commented that a maid outfit might suit Kazuma and noted that someone was staring intensely, questioning who he really was. The voice adamantly refused to allow ties to be cut, questioning if Kazuma was defying their orders and urging him to kill that girl. Another voice lamented that it couldn't be helped, as it took a long time to break free from a certain place. That cheerful voice declared enough was enough and greeted Kazuma with a long time no see. One student questioned if Sakura Chill was truly at fault, while another insisted that saying kill was too extreme. Rua apologized to Sakura Chill, who reluctantly accepted, telling her to keep it a secret and go home. Someone commented that saying kill was indeed over the line and expressed surprise at seeing Rua apologize. Amain wondered if Sakura Chill was reflecting, admitting she had also been lying and apologizing to Rua, who declared her wrong and that getting close to Kazuma was unfair. A man asked Kazuma if he planned to return to the Takayashiki family, to which he apologized for not saying goodbye to his master. Someone observed that Rua was determined to make Kazuma her husband, noting it would be tough as he was the most powerful man in the country. A voice scoffed at Kazuma's desire for a normal life, stating it was time for them to take him out as he didn't seem like someone who could be owned. The voice warned that they might be enemies next time, but expressed a desire to return as a customer, promising special service if it was Kazuma. Hiraji asked Kazuma if he was okay, admitting he couldn't wrap his head around the situation after almost being killed, comparing it to a video game battle. Kazuma apologized to Hiraji for dragging him into the mess and thanked him for protecting him, admitting he had been lying all along. A man asked why Kazuma was so nice to her, honestly feeling she didn't deserve to be his friend. Kazuma questioned if qualifications were needed to be friends, stating he never had friends, and that Hiraji's opinion didn't sit well with him, offering to do something to make up for it. Hiraji asked Kazuma if he would go shopping for clothes with him, explaining he tried to dress up, but was laughed at and needed help looking normal and stylish. Kazuma agreed to go to the mall together, and Hiraji declared he would make Kazuma the most normal person, while someone named Ayacha seemed surprised. Hiraji asked if it was okay for him to call Kazuma and for Kazuma to call him, then brought up something called badump and a kiss on the ear. Kazuma apologized for kissing Hiraji without asking, but Hiraji stated it was fine, and he'd like to do it again in a more romantic way. Kazuma questioned why Hiraji was changing classes, lamenting the lack of a battle this time. Kazuma reminded Hiraji that retaking the special student exam was necessary to avoid demotion, as he confirmed changing classes due to recent events. Confidently, he declared the retest would pose no challenge, while Kazuma puzzled over the hostility between the two. Apologizing to Honda-san, he cited his last day in class as reason for claiming the seat without permission and causing disruption. Honda-san reassured Hiraji that it was fine and he shouldn't worry about it. Hiraji thanked Honda-san, admitting he had become full of himself as a special student, even though it didn't mean anything, as there were amazing people. Kazuma questioned if Hiraji was acting like a good acting girl, crying to everyone this whole time. Hiraji wondered if he should tell everyone Ayacha's secret about lying, prompting Kazuma to exclaim in surprise. Sakura Chill, her voice sharp, warned that laying hands on Hiraji was unacceptable, even as she used her mouth to speak. Amain Minato, recovering from the confrontation, declared she would properly state her feelings in her own words to everyone. She confessed she had been pretending, lying about her family's poverty and her many part-time jobs, apologizing for the deception. Aman admitted her fear of Rua's popularity and status had driven her to constantly monitor Rua's moods and follow her lead. She declared she was done with that behavior, stating Rua was too spoiled, and that she would now treat her differently. Aman insisted Rua needed a friend she could be truly honest with, like herself. Despite Rua's confusion, Aman vowed to continue, praising Rua's amazing nature for still trying to be friends after what that pig to her. Rua, taken aback, questioned Aman's resolve, but Aman firmly stated she wasn't giving up on Kazuma. She declared that even as friends, they were rivals in this regard, and urged Kazuma to brace himself too. Sakura Chill wondered why Kazuma was so popular, questioning who he was after Aman, and now Aman also turned their attention to him. President Kokao sternly warned that killing was not allowed, and that she would report the incident if it happened again, forbidding the use of Rai. Rua declared that if she wasn't by Kazuma's side, other girls would swarm him, and challenged Aman to do the same if she wanted to win him. Rua suggested Kazuma should focus on actions he'd actually like, rather than putting others down. Sakurachi declared she needed to speak with her grandfather immediately, thanking someone before leaving. Kazuma greeted President Kokao, who was reviewing a budget proposal with Hayashi. The broadcast club's equipment costs were doubled, and the tea ceremony club's carryover funds were also discussed. Kazuma acknowledged President Koku's perfect work, as expected of Teikai Academy's student council president. He noted that besides running the student council, she also managed her own company and had been top of her class since entrance exams. With a bow, she apologized for blocking the way, mentioning her business in the student council room and asking if the president was present. President Kokyao received a greeting from Rua, who explained she had drafted a new school rule requiring official paperwork processing. The new rule's presentation at tomorrow's all-school assembly was announced by Rua before she excused herself, citing a headache and leaving matters to Kazuma. The next morning, President Kokyu addressed the assembly, stating that power is rewarded and the weak fall, reflecting the harsh truth of society. She declared her mission was to raise winners for Japan and announced a new system for Teikai Academy. Under this new badge system, scholarship students at the top would wear gold badges, while ordinary students would wear silver. Rua Takayashiki announced that all scholarship students would now receive a special gold badge, emphasizing their value to the school. She explained that the badges would make scholarship students more aware of their pride and responsibility, encouraging them to work harder. Students reacted with mixed feelings, some finding the idea neat and wanting to try for scholarships, while others felt the system was bad news. Rua concluded by asking everyone to show respect to the scholarship students, thanking them for their contributions. The crowd buzzed with excitement as students claimed Rua Takayashiki winked at them, while Kazuma felt a wave of nausea. Kazuma decided to go to the nurse's office, noting that announcements like this were usually the student council president's job, not Rua's. President Kokyu entered the room, and Kazuma, flustered, apologized for being there and offered to leave immediately. President Kokyu stopped Kazuma, revealing she knew he was Suzuki Kazuma from class 111 and knew every student's class and name. Kazuma apologized again, taking the blame for not locking the door, but President Kochu insisted she couldn't let him leave like this. President Kochu then asked Kazuma what he expected, proposing either expulsion or an engagement to her. Kazuma was shocked by President Koku's proposal, and she clarified that expulsion would be no problem, but engagement seemed like a better option. President Kokao stated she looked forward to working with Kazuma, who nervously agreed. President Kochu joked that she'd heard the student council officer was an untouchable genius, but talking to her felt different. She asked Kazuma what he thought about the badge system announced at the assembly, noting she approved it under her authority. Kazuma pressed her, asking if she was for or against the system, which she found unsurprising given his opposition. President Koku found Kazuma surprisingly intimidating and suggested ending the conversation, offering to call a nurse because he didn't look well. Kazuma thought her reaction showed she couldn't oppose the chairman's granddaughter, realizing the president was also against the system. He declared that the badge system she proposed was horrible and should be scrapped immediately, finally understanding why she pushed him away. Kazuma accused her of wanting to be special and liked by everyone, believing her brilliance would overshadow him if he stayed by her side. President Kokyu expressed disbelief, admitting she hadn't realized sooner they were childhood friends, and apologized, explaining she created the badge system after talking with Sakura Chill and Gray. She offered Kazuma a gold badge for scholarship students, suggesting he could join the upper ranks now. Kazuma reacted with shock, asking what she was doing and stating he wanted a normal life, not a badge to join the upper ranks. President Kokyo questioned his meaning, remarking on the trouble she went through to think of this and humble herself for him. Rua Takayashiki declared that Kazuma Suzuki was impossible and told him not to come crying later. 2 weeks later, Kazuma noted that the school had started feeling strange lately. Aman Minato agreed, observing that students with gold badges seemed to receive preferential treatment, and the favoritism towards scholarship students had grown. Kazuma asked Aman if she had heard of the prison experiment, which she believed was related to the badge system. Amani explained that the guards became more arrogant over time, making the experiment so dangerous it had to be stopped, while prisoners became more submissive. Kazuma doubted it would go that far, but acknowledged the situation felt similar between scholarship and regular students. Aman added that it was later revealed the professor running the experiment had instructed the guards to act like brutal jailers. Kazuma expressed relief but cautioned that guards could still turn out that way if someone higher up told them to. Kazuma pointed out that Aman wasn't wearing a badge either, and she wondered if it was because she was the only one without one. She insisted it was okay and would confront the pig immediately, wondering if this was Rua's retaliation for rejecting a badge. Her reasoning was that accepting a badge would prevent her from aligning with Kazuma, and since solitude was her norm, she welcomed the odd looks. To her, finding and rescuing her from darkness mattered more than anything, and she cherished every moment spent with Kazuma. In Kazuma Suzuki's mind, Aman Minato's name materialized inside a thought bubble. Kazuma jumped, apologizing profusely as he bumped into someone and dropped papers. The person Kazuma bumped into explained that a baseball club member had forced Aman to give him her contact info and wanted to talk after school. He then asked Kazuma if he would walk home with him after he finished talking to the baseball club member, as it had been a while and he was off work. A notification popped up on a screen, stating it was unusual for Aman to be late at 16:10. A voice commented that 10 minutes wasn't that late, but Aman always said being late affected credibility at work, so she was always on time. Kazuma told someone he was going home now, but was told they weren't done talking yet and to stop. The person insisted Kazuma stop being stubborn and do as he was told, asking if it wasn't a bad deal for him either, and to help him. Kazuma checked his car lock, and then his car, relieved he wouldn't make a blunder like that again. An email addressed to the student council arrived, marked with Yay. The email, addressed to Suzuki Kazuma, questioned what exactly he was trying to do. Suddenly, Aman Minato called out to Kazuma, her voice filled with urgency. Kazuma Suzuki stood firm, a defiant glare directed at the aggressive students surrounding him. One of them taunted Kazuma, questioning his activities and suggesting he focus on the baseball team instead of bothering girls. The aggressor escalated the confrontation, challenging Kazuma to a fight, which elicited a startled cry from Aman. The instigator smirked, noting how easily Kazuma was provoked. Kazuma asked if they were okay, while the aggressor insisted he was merely offering Aman a good deal. The aggressor elaborated that if Amain went out with him, she would receive a special gold badge, implying it was better than staying a plain nobody. Kazuma recognized the aggressor's words as a ploy orchestrated by Rua Takayashiki, accusing him of using Amaini to get to him. The aggressor retorted that Kazuma, a scholarship student, was getting too arrogant and threatened him with consequences if he caused trouble. Kazuma recalled the previous year's lynching incident covered up by the school, mentioning the strength of the baseball and judo teams. The aggressor declared that a plain nobody like Kazuma would regret defying them, while Kazuma looked concerned for Aman. The aggressor shouted at Kazuma not to run away, calling him a weakling. Kazuma felt bad for Amain, but decided to buy her some time until she arrived, letting out a determined cry. President Koku demanded to know what Kazuma and Hiraji were doing fighting. Hiraji stammered that it was no big deal, and they were just worked up, while Kazuma tried to downplay the situation. Dismissing the notion of a fight over a girl, Koku scoffed, and Kazuma quickly agreed they were just messing around. Observing the weakness of others toward authority, Kochu noted how power bred arrogance and obedience. Facing Kazuma directly, Kochu demanded to know if he sent the black butterfly email to the empty classroom. Admitting her reasoning, Kochu explained that having Kazuma resolve things alone was best, apologizing for the secluded meeting. Raising concerns about propriety, Kochu questioned the closeness of their position on school grounds. Demanding reforms, Koku urged the student council to revise the badge system due to scholarship students' arrogance. Signaling the end of the encounter, Koku told Kazuma and Amain to head home, urging Amaini to release his sleeve. Though apologizing to Kazuma for frightening him, Aman insisted remaining unmarked was her choice, even if being surrounded by men felt overwhelming. Desperate to fill her head with Kazuma, Amain begged him to overwrite her feelings,